'cause she's Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
In the wild, wonderful world of 1970s Saturday morning TV, one show seemed to pop up as if by magic. It was a groovy spin-off from the booming Archie Comics universe, starring a teenage witch who immediately cast a spell on the entire nation. Sabrina the Teenage Witch landed as a massive hit, the perfect mix of high school drama and supernatural fun that felt like it was destined for a long, glorious run. But behind the magic and the laugh tracks, a different story was playing out. One of corporate strategy, ultra-cheap animation, and shifting priorities. The magic didn't just disappear, it was systematically taken apart. So what really happened to the original animated Sabrina the Teenage Witch? It wasn't cancelled in a blaze of glory. Its fall was quieter, more complicated, and honestly, quite a lot more interesting. This is the story of how a certified Saturday morning hit had its production plug pulled after just one season of new episodes, leading to a long, slow fade that left a generation of fans with a faint magical memory and one big question: what went wrong? Okay, so to really get Sabrina's story, you have to rewind a bit. The character of Sabrina Spellman was created by writer George Gladder and artist Dan DeCarlo, first showing up in Archie's Madhouse No. 22 back in October 1962. And for a while she was just a fun, minor character in the huge Archie universe. She was a half-witch, living with her two aunts Hilda and Zelda and their cat. Now, if you're thinking of a witty, sarcastic warlock trapped in a cat's body, hold that thought. That famous version came much later in the 90s. In the original comics, in this first cartoon, the cat was an orange tabby named Salem who didn't talk. He just meowed. He was mostly a normal cat who occasionally got into some magical mischief. But in the late 60s, TV was changing. The animation studio Filmation had struck gold with The Archie Show, a cartoon that turned the comic book gang into Saturday morning superstars. And the studio was hungry for another hit and wanted to spin off another character. So, they zeroed in on the magical girl from Greendale. The writers at Archie Comics were reportedly floored by the choice. They had dozens of characters, but Filmation picked Sabrina, a relatively small player, to carry a new show. It was a gamble, but one that Freddie Silverman, the head of programming at CBS, was happy to make. So, on September 12, 1970, the world was officially introduced to Sabrina and the Groovy Ghoulies. It was now a long block that paired Sabrina's adventures with segments about a band of friendly musical monsters. And the idea for Sabrina's part was simple. A kind-hearted teenage witch trying to get through high school, using her magic to solve problems while keeping her powers a secret from her mortal friends, all with a laugh track humming in the background.
Well, you'll scare the devil out of them.
Now, the response from kids was instant and huge. The mix of Sabrina's charm and the Ghoulies' silly jokes made it a ratings powerhouse. It was a smash hit in a crowded Saturday morning lineup, proving Filmation's weird bet on a minor character had definitely paid off big time. The Groovy Teen Witch was officially a star. She had the magic, she had the audience, and it looked like her reign was just getting started. At its peak, Sabrina and the Groovy Ghoulies was pure 70s cartoon gold. It was zany, colourful, and built on a formula that kids just loved. The Ghoulies, Drac, Frankie, and Wolfie, brought a slapstick energy to the show, packed with puns, gags, and a rock and roll song in every single episode. Sabrina's segments, on the other hand, felt more like a supernatural sitcom. The two halves worked together perfectly, creating a full hour of TV that had something for everyone. But the show's winning formula was the first thing the network decided to break. After that incredibly strong first season, executives made a fateful call. They split up the team. The Groovy Ghoulies was spun off into their own separate series, and Sabrina the Teenage Witch was cut down to a standalone half-hour show. Now, on paper, it probably seemed smart. 2 hit shows for the price of 1. But in reality, it weakened the magic of that original hour-long block that had grabbed such a massive audience. The unique chemistry was gone. And this is where we run into the second, more subtle problem: the animation. This was a Filmation production, and Filmation was legendary for cutting costs. Founded by Lou Scheimer and Norm Prescott, the studio dominated Saturday mornings by making cartoons on a shoestring budget. They practically invented a style of limited animation that reused stock footage constantly. Characters would often stand completely still, with only their mouths moving. before suddenly breaking into the same recycled running animation you'd seen over and over, not just in Sabrina, but across all of Filmation's shows. Studio head Lou Scheimer gets a lot of credit for insisting on keeping production in the US instead of outsourcing. It was a noble goal, but it made his already tight budgets even tighter. The result was animation that, while it has a certain nostalgic charm now, was often criticized for being repetitive and cheap-looking. The backgrounds could be gorgeous, but the actual character movement was sacrificed for speed and efficiency. And this all leads us to the real heart of Sabrina's fall. While the show felt like a long-running classic to the kids watching at home, the truth is that the production line for new Sabrina the Teenage Witch episodes completely shut down after the 1970-71 season. Only 31 short segments were ever made for the original series, and after that one burst of creativity, Filmation just, stopped. The magic hadn't faded, it came to a dead halt. The show that kept airing for years was, in reality, a ghost. So, if production stopped in 1971, how did the show become such a core memory for a whole generation of 70s kids? Well, the answer is that Sabrina the Teenage Witch didn't vanish, it just lingered. After the new episodes stopped, CBS kept airing reruns for 3 more years, all the way until 1974. So for a kid watching on a Saturday morning, there was no real difference. Sabrina was still on. But behind the scenes, the show wasn't a priority anymore. It was just a cheap and easy way to fill a time slot. The decision to split up Sabrina and the Ghoulies and then rely only on reruns had a predictable effect. While solid ratings data from this era is hard to come by, it's safe to assume that showing the same 31 stories on a loop for years led to audience burnout. The excitement from 1970 slowly wore off as viewers were fed the same episodes again and again. And the fall wasn't a dramatic crash, it was a slow, steady slide into the background. So after its run on CBS ended, the show was sold into syndication in 1976, giving it a second life on local TV stations. And this cemented its phantom presence throughout the rest of the decade. It was everywhere and nowhere at once, a character everyone knew, but with no new show on the air. So the real fall of Sabrina wasn't cancellation. It was that huge 7-year gap where nothing new was being made. The incredible momentum from her debut was completely lost. The character was stuck in animation limbo, kept alive only by the echoes of her one and only season. Now, in 1977, Filmation did actually bring the character back for the New Archie and Sabrina hour, an attempt by NBC to recapture the old magic. But this was a reboot, not a continuation. It struggled in the ratings and was quickly retooled before disappearing by 1978. The attempt to bring Sabrina back really only highlighted how long she'd been gone, and the partnership between Filmation and the Archie Comics characters finally came to an end. Now, the rise and fall of the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch isn't a story about a sudden cancellation. It's a cautionary tale about the business of cartoons. The show's decline was the result of a series of corporate decisions. A winning formula was broken up to create more programming. A commitment to budget animation limited its quality from day one. And a baffling choice to halt production after a single season turned a ratings hit into a rerun ghost. It didn't disappear in a puff of smoke, it just faded away piece by piece. Okay, so if you remember watching Sabrina or the Groovy Ghoulies on a Saturday morning, drop your favourite memory in the comments below. What was your favourite episode or character? And if you enjoyed this look back, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the forgotten histories of the shows you grew up with. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.